also to make sure that you get your goals taken care of as well. So my name is Patrick Leong. I'm an English professor, but as many professors that you have as well, we serve in a variety of capacities. So we serve on college-wide committees. The main college-wide committee I serve on is the Scholarship Committee, which I'm very proud to be a part of. I've been part of it for several years. It's a very rewarding experience, although it is a bit difficult in reading so many essays and assessing so many well-qualified students, because we know we only have so many awards and so much money to give away, but yet there are many needy and qualified students. I'd also like to say it's so nice to see some former students here as well. I'm hoping that you can benefit from this, and I'm glad that you joined us. So before we begin, I'm going to deal with the writing aspect of it, but there's also some logistical stuff around the application. And so we have a scholarship program coordinator who is here once again to serve you and to help you with not only this application, but also for external scholarships, whether you're a continuing student or you're ready to transfer. So we're going to hear from Sherry Keller to give us a brief intro and some additional information. Sherry?
Thank you, Patrick. Hello, everyone. It's great to see so many people here. Welcome to the scholarship workshop. It's really wonderful, like I said, to see all of you here because Patrick gives of his time every year to do this wonderful scholarship workshop for students. And so you have the benefit of hearing from somebody who's actually on the committee and being able to tell you or provide some tips and really good information regarding the scholarship part of the application. So as the scholarship coordinator, I can assist you with questions that you may have regarding the application itself. So if you have questions regarding application, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at my email address, which is scholarships with an S on the end. So scholarships@dvc.edu. You can also call me if you have questions about the DVC scholarship application at 925-969-2094. And that number is on the website. I'm on the scholarship pages. But this session is devoted specifically to the writing of the scholarship essay. And so, like I said, you're all very fortunate today to have Patrick here to provide this wonderful presentation. So thank you, Patrick, so much for doing this. And I hope you enjoyed. And like I said, do reach out if you have questions. One last thing, if any of you are transferring this coming fall semester, or possibly next spring semester, there are some really great external opportunities for transferring students. We have one coming right up, which is the $10,000 Kennedy King Scholarship. The deadline for that is Friday. So if any of you are transferring, and there are other ones after that deadline. So if any of you are transferring, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, 925-969-2094 or scholarships@dvc.edu. I'd be very happy to meet with you and talk about some of these wonderful external scholarship opportunities, which are separate from the DVC scholarship application. But I don't want to take up too much more time. So I'm going to let with his presentation. Again, Patrick, thank you so much for doing this, and I hope you all enjoy the presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sherry, so much for that information. I think that you should also know to help yourself be prepared. You should have pen and paper for this presentation. And also, we'll be doing some brainstorming activities. They won't be that long, but they're intended just to introduce you to some ways to brainstorm for this essay. As you guys know, the essay is a very important part of the application process. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to be covering in this class will be related to the skills that you are learning or have learned in your English 122 class, but we're going to gear it a little bit more towards scholarship. Because as you know, in an academic essay, you have a thesis statement that drives everything. Well, a scholarship essay doesn't necessarily have a thesis statement, and also its intent and its audience and its purpose is a little bit different as well. So please take notes. And also the information that Sherry gave you could be found on the DVC website. at the scholarship office on that website. Okay, so again, you need paper, pencil available to not only take notes, but to do some brainstorming activities as well. So I'm going to start by sharing this screen with you so that you are able to take down notes and get some information as well to help you write a very hopefully engaging essay that really talks about your need and also the merits that you have available to you. So I've been fortunate enough to do personal statement scholarship essay workshops, not only for DVC, but for other colleges throughout the state and other programs. I just recently did a scholarship workshop in Texas because they are now trying to get their students much more involved in applying for scholarships. So a lot of people really look to DVC for the wonderful program that we have, because we have nice leaders like Sherry, who is really the conduit between the committee and very dedicated faculty members to the committee as well. So before we begin, you should also know that you will need 2 letters of recommendation for you to be eligible. There's a series of requirements that you need. One is the essay, and the other one is the application, and then these 2 letters of recommendation. I want to emphasize to you that we are not looking for a family friend or a family member to write for you. We need one to be from a DVC professor, and that includes a counselor or a librarian because they are considered faculty members. But again, you want to make sure that you've had interactions with them, perhaps in a class, or you have some type of relationship with them so they can speak highly of you. That's why we really suggest that you get faculty members, professors that you have in your classes, because you perhaps cultivated relationships with them. The other letter of recommendation can come from a second professor. It can come from a classified member at DVC. It could come from an employer. It could come from an organization where you do community service. Someone who again can speak to your character, because that's what we are trying to get out of the letters of recommendation as well as the essay, and it's who you are. And of course, I know many of you are thinking, well, my mother knows who I am really well, or my neighbor, but you know, we want to see someone who you've developed a relationship with and came in cold and then cultivated that. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So we're going to talk today about writing an effective personal essay. And as I said, I'm the chair of the scholarship committee. I have been the co-coordinator for the Puente project here at DVC. I'm a statewide trainer for the Puente project as well. And I also serve as the Nexus orientation coordinator. And that is a program that acclimates new faculty to their roles here at DVC. I've been at DVC for 25 years. I'm very tied to scholarships. I fund several scholarships as well. And I really am looking forward to helping you to find ways to finance your education so you can be successful. All right, so the first activity that we really want to start with, and I also want to let you know that I'm not able to follow the chat either. So if there's any questions, we'll have to maybe ascertain them at the end, or if Sherry is here or know how they can perhaps answer some questions that are coming up in the chat. So if you can get a piece of paper out, and the first brainstorming activity we want to do is what we call a timeline. And this timeline obviously just looks over a certain period of time, but really to write a strong essay that enables you to reflect upon those experiences, you have to go beyond a year. So on your piece of paper, if you could, why isn't this going here? On a piece of paper, if you could identify and plot out key elements of your life over the last 5 years. So I just put October here because generally we start scholarship workshops in October, but you can put January of 21 and just go back 5 years. And on this timeline, like we saw previously on the previous slide, plot out different events that have happened in your life. Let's just take 5 minutes, and these would be key events. So maybe, one plotted item would be when you graduated from high school. Okay, where would that fall? Maybe some of you have had children, so you want to plot that out. Maybe you have gone on a very profound trip that involved community service, such as Habitat for Humanity. So let's just take about 4 minutes now and plot out key events and moments in your life. I'll refer back to this a little bit later on, but for now, just plot out these key events. If you were going to bring somebody up to date that you haven't seen in 5 years, you're not going to give them a blow by blow account of every year. What would you highlight if you say you had 5 minutes to talk to them? 2 more minutes. Again, key elements in your life, because believe it or not, these key elements could be the basis of your essay. Okay, so these activities, brainstorming activities that we're doing are not meant to be finished. They're just meant to introduce you to different ways that you can come up with topics that you need to write about. And the reason that we want to look over a 5 year period is because this will enable you to reflect upon your life. And that reflection is a key element that needs to come out into the essay that not only the DVC scholarship committee members, but most scholarship committee members want to know about. If we think of the great Harlem Renaissance writer James Baldwin, he says it's the past that makes the present coherent. We have to know where we have gone, where we've been in order to know where we are going. And that to me is a good indication of a way for us to reflect upon our experiences by plotting out key moments of the last 5 years so we can reflect to talk about how we have grown, because that growth is really what you want to write about, because that's what they want, committees want to see, how you have grown and how you have learned about yourself. So if we look at the overview of the scholarship essay and what it is designed to do, the personal essay is the place for you really to begin to distinguish yourself from the other applicants for scholarships, but also you should think about this for college admissions or also for jobs, because we know that there are people, many students that have very similar records, but our experiences have been different. Our growth has been different. Our voice and how we tell that to a committee is all going to be different. So that's how you're able to distinguish yourself in who you are. So once again, we began with that brainstorming activity because you need to remember that writing's a process, and you should go through that same type of process that you've learned through your educational experiences in order to develop a very good essay. So we know that this personal statement is your opportunity to let the committee know who you are and also what aspects of your life make you an ideal candidate for them. Why are you a good match for this donor? Why are you a good match for this scholarship? And of course, we can say it very crassly and saying, I'm a good fit because, but we're looking for more creative ways. That shows, a little bit more thought and creativity in saying who you are. So because of that, we know that the scholarship is a very important aspect of the application. And even though you only need to do one application and one essay for the DBC scholarship that makes you eligible for perhaps 80 opportunities or so, it must be submitted with the application. If you're missing any part of the application, it will DQ you and you will not be forwarded on no matter how many scholarship you are matched for. Your application will be considered incomplete. So you really want to think about the purpose of the essay. What is it that you are trying to get across? And again, as I said, the main purpose is to give scholarship committees the opportunity to tell aspects of your background that may not be apparent from other parts of the application. So perhaps you've had a learning disability your whole life that you've had to deal with. That learning disability has kind of shaped who you are and your identity. That's not going to come out on other aspects of the application. On the application, if you do have perhaps a disability, then you can mark that you're part of the DSS program at DVC. But that doesn't really tell us, the challenge that you've had to overcome, how you've overcome it, and again, how you have reflected on those experiences to make you the ideal candidate. So the purpose then is really to provide that insight of your character, about you on a personal level. In essence, if you think about giving a speech and you're in front of everybody and you're delivering your message, your essay is your speech. You are, quote, selling yourself to the committee. You are exposing yourself to why you are a ideal candidate. Because when committees, scholarship committees, and even I would say admissions committees and officers have to make a decision on who they're going to give a space to or an award to, they have to take into account the personal attributes that the applicant provides, of course, their academic record, and their financial need. Well, the last two, the academic record and the financial need, could be very similar amongst several students. And the one area that makes you different are your personal attributes. And those personal attributes only come out or mainly come out in the essay. So some of you may know the honor society that we have at DVC, AGS, Alpha Gamma Sigma. Well, I was an advisor for AGS and I was part of the scholarship committee for AGS, where we give out, for those of you who know about this, there are several scholarships, the Bell, the Lolly, the Manavani Scholarship, that um, members from local chapters apply to for the state organization, and each college can have a couple of representatives. Well, guess what? The Kathleen Lolly is an academic award. Almost everybody has a 4.0 GPA. Many of them have financial need. And we're only giving out 40 scholarships, yet there's over 100 applicants. How do we determine in making that decision? And again, I have to say, it really comes down to the personal attributes. So let's do another writing activity so we can think about things that we're going to reflect on, things that are going to be able to identify who we are and personal attributes that we can talk about as subtopic points in our essay. So you can get a piece of paper and you can divide it into fours. And we call this the 4 squares brainstorming activity. And in the upper left-hand corner, you can just write something about your name. And you would brainstorm things about your name. On the upper right hand side, you would put your achievements. And even though your achievements may be in particular areas that you can put on the application, you still want to list those achievements because, again, you may have had to overcome a hardship, an obstacle, a challenge, which then led to a triumph. Or even if it led to a disappointment, how you learned and how you grew through that disappointment is something that we would like to see. How have you overcome that adversity? So you want to list your achievements. In the bottom left-hand side, it's kind of like your bucket list. What is it that you would like to accomplish? Where do you want to transfer to? What do you want to major in? Um, and why do you want to major in that? Because what career is it going to lead you to? Kind of what is your bucket list for your life? Maybe your bucket list is that you are going to make sure to travel to every one of the 50 states in the United States before you are gone from this earth. you know and then that's a wonderful thing. Why do you have that bucket list? Why do you want to accomplish that? What is it going to do for you? And lastly, in the bottom right hand side, begin to brainstorm embarrassing moments. Okay. And it might be hard for us to talk about these embarrassing moments, but actually, they make for good topics to write about. And the reason why is because usually when you are in an embarrassing situation, you feel very uncomfortable. And of course, naturally, we try to make ourselves as comfortable as possible. So when you're in that embarrassing situation, when you feel uncomfortable, what were you able to do to find comfort? Because we know that growth happens by being in uncomfortable situations because we work to get out of them. So again, put this up and do a quick brainstorm for about 3 minutes, something about your name. Like for instance, my name is Patrick. I know that Patrick comes from the Latin root patricius, and Patrick is also the patron saint of Ireland. Why is that important? Because that's a Catholic nation. That tells that I'm Catholic. Well, maybe I'm going to talk about my faith and my religion and how that shaped who I am. My middle name is Liang. I was very embarrassed about that name for the longest time, honestly, because I didn't know the history about it. I didn't know the naming tradition that my father wanted to get, he wanted to employ to give us that name. So I wouldn't claim that name until I learned about this history about it. And then my last name is Leong. And so I know a little bit of history about that. Maybe nicknames. Do you have a nickname? How did you get that nickname? How do you feel about that nickname? So anything about your name can go in there. So let's take about 3 more minutes and fill out this list. Just bullet point things about what you feel about your name, your outstanding achievements. Here is an outstanding achievement that I feel um, defines who I am. In 2015, I was named the Contra Costa Community College District Teacher of the Year, the Professor of the Year. That was a very, very big accomplishment. Okay. And what can I then write about that achievement? I started, like many of you guys, a first generational college student. I come from a family where my parents were farm laborers. I am Chinese by my father and I am Latino from my mother. No one would know that that they met working in the fields because of the fact that the Chinese worked well with the land and the Mexicans were cheap labor. And that's how my parents ended up meeting. Okay. So for me to achieve that, to be a product and a child from a farm labor family, first generation, who comes from low income to achieve being professor of the year at the college that I work at, well, I'm writing my essay right here. I am reflecting upon my life, where I've been. Again, James Baldwin, right? The past makes the present coherent. That past now makes my present very coherent. Okay. Couple more minutes and then we'll be moving on. But again, this is a list that you can refer back to as either subtopic points that you put in your essay, or they could be the main topic that you center your essay around. Okay, so for the purposes of time, again, my goal is just to introduce this to you. So when you're ready to begin working on the essay, you can go back and you can complete these activities. Maybe for some of you, your achievements are you are the first in your family to receive a higher education and a degree. And I know that I'm in the same situation that you guys are in. And I was the first family member out of all of my Mexican and Asian relatives to achieve a master's degree. Now, what does that mean to me? And that might give me something to write about. Okay. So you want to keep these for topics for you as well. And what these brainstorming activities are enabling you to do is to think about what characteristics do you want to put into your essay. And I've listed some of these characteristics that you might want to ascertain. You don't have to ascertain all of these. You can think of certain ones that you want to put in and cover them, or you can focus on just one area if that's what you would like to do. So maybe you want to talk about the creativity and rare talent that you have. Maybe you're a writer, a poet, Amanda Gorman, somebody like that. Maybe you are going to, there's I don't know if we still have it, but Sherry could tell you we have the Colby Art Award, and so maybe that is for artists. So you have this rare talent that you want to talk about and how you cultivate it. Maybe you want to talk about the intellectual curiosity that you have, that you really want to be a lifelong learner. And I know that what this means, because my family would tease me and they say, you just don't ever want to grow up. You want to be a student your whole life. And that's why you became a teacher. Well, partially, but I just enjoy the intellectual curiosity of studying, of doing research, of learning about my students, studying with my students, learning and growing with them. As I talked about achievements, any type of exceptional recognition that have gotten, we really talk about your merit. And that could be achievements in academics, that could be achievements in community service, and perhaps maybe in athletics. But if it was in the past and you're not currently involved with athletics now, maybe that wouldn't be the best achievement to talk about. Committee members really definitely want to know your ability to overcome hardships. That really leads to the next bullet point of initiation, motivation, leadership, and persistence. Because when you overcome hardships, you're showing that you had some initiative to overcome that by doing certain things, that you didn't give up, that you continue to be motivated, that you became a leader somehow in overcoming that hardship, and also that you are persisting to reach your goals. You're not going to let anything stop you. I've always believed, coming from a very low income family and trying to achieve an education and pay for it, if there's a will, there's a way. And that was my persistence. And there was times where I didn't know, where food was going to come from, how I was going to pay for my fees and so forth, but I persisted and I feel much more successful now. Community service is very important to many committees. So if you have service to others, and we don't necessarily mean, I mean, you could put it in there. Maybe you go to a church and you do service to your church, but try to think about areas where if you weren't associated with them, what service would you give and who would you give it to? So a lot of parents would say, well, I give service to, my child's school, which is good. And you could talk about that, but think of service that you would have given if your child wasn't in that school. Okay. So sometimes people say, well, I'm so poor, I have to work and I have to help my family. I don't have time to do service to anybody. That's okay. You want to talk about that. You want to talk about a low income family and you don't have time to do that because you need to work, or that you perhaps have to contribute to your family. You're the oldest and you have to take care of siblings, take them to school. Maybe you have to translate for parents at doctor's appointments and so forth. That is a type of a service, and it's not doing community service, but talk about the fact that it lacks because you have these other responsibilities. And lastly, if you have any type of special spark, that definitely makes for a good essay as well. So if you can get another piece of paper out, we're going to do our last brainstorming activity, which I think will really help you because this is a reflective piece. And it says for 10 minutes, but I think we're only really going to do maybe about 5 minutes. The idea here is to free write. Free writing is that you continuously write for the entire time without stopping. We don't go back and read. We do not edit. We cross words out. We don't erase. So the idea is just to write. At this point, you know that you are not concerned with grammar or any types of mechanics. You just want to develop these prompts. And the prompt is, I used to be, fill it in, but now I'm. So maybe you've changed majors. I used to be a psychology major, but now I'm an English major. Talk about that change. Talk about that transformation. Why were you interested in psychology? And now, why are you changing to English? Here's one that I see a lot with students that I deal with. I used to have a 1.7 GPA, but now I'm a 4.0 student. Isn't that wonderful? Talk about why you were a 1.7 GPA so you can get into the transformation and the change to show the committee how you became that 4.0 student. Again, I used to be unmotivated about school, but now I am very motivated. So talk about why you are unmotivated in going to school and being present in school to now you're very much involved. How can you account for that change? Okay, what is your story? So I talked the majority of the way through this one, but the idea is just for you guys to write. So let's take about 2 more minutes, um, just to identify maybe the two topics, how you used to be, and then how you are now. Because as I said, I just want to introduce you to these topics. They're not meant to be finished, but they're meant for you to go back and complete. Because as an English instructor, I cannot express to you that writing is a process. We have to think about what we're going to write about before we write it. It becomes more organized. It can also become much more reflective as well. So take another minute or so. Maybe you can jot down a couple of sentences. Maybe you can put some bullet points that you would talk about. I used to be unmotivated about school because of this, this, and this. But now I'm very motivated because of this, and this. You're identifying those subtopic points after you've already identified the topics that you're going to write about.
Sorry to interrupt, but while you are guys here, I just want to make sure that everybody who's here for the extra credit stay till the end again, because I'm going to go over the extra credit PowerPoint, as well as how you get your extra credit kind of verified to your professors. Thank you.
Okay, again, for the purposes of time, because we only have an hour, we want to get through this to get to the crux of the essay. But remember, when we write, we have to plan so we can organize, and you're more likely to come out with a better essay. And that's just, again, part of the writing process. All right, so these are the brainstorming activities that we kind of participated in, and this is why we did them, because they get to the characteristics of the essay. And these are different approaches in brainstorming. As I told you, the prompt that we just used, we looked at taking certain episodes in our life to explain how these episodes make us an ideal candidate or the right person for the committee or for a particular scholarship based on the donor's criteria. And again, if you're more of an oral visual person, you can talk out about how you would bring a friend up to date that you haven't seen in a few years. That's the idea of the timeline. Identify your current goals and your aspirations that you have. That was the 4 squares, because really we want to see that reflective nature, as I said. How have you evaluated your growth within the last 5 years? And we say last 5 years because I think that's a good measure. I think 10 years might be a little bit too far out, but the 5 years is a little bit more recent. You can narrow it down to 3 years, I think, but I think 1 year might be a little bit too short. You can talk about what has inspired and fired your imagination. Again, that would be that bucket list area. Or you can think about exciting adventures that you've partook in, either on the timeline or on the 4 squares. Okay, so when committee members are evaluating essays and they're looking for that ideal candidate, these are the basic areas that they're looking for. They're looking for the development of your character. That's why your name is your identity. So write something about your name, okay? Because committee members want to know who you are. And part of who you are what your passions, okay? And those passions have led to achievements. They've led to life skills that you have mastered, okay? And you probably have mastered those life skills because you had to respond to some type of adversity. So those questions there on who you are, what your passions are, really begin to develop who you are as a person, your character, okay? Committee members also want to know your educational goals. These are academic scholarships for education. So you need to tell committee members, why do you want this degree? Why do you want a BA in social sciences? Why do you want a BS in sociology? Because what will that do for you in your life? And how then will school help facilitate that career goal or what you want to do in life with this particular degree? We also are looking for people who want to be lifelong learners, no matter what it is. It could be a hobby, it could be more classes, it could be a new skill. So, what do you want to learn more about? What are those other interests that you haven't been able to get to yet? And most importantly, how will the education process contribute to your life goals? How will coming to school to get a degree in business help you do what you want to do in your life? And how is school going to help you do that? And and then after you reach that goal, what is it that you want to learn more about? And lastly, we want to know really about that sense of community. What is your sense of the individual responsibility in this world? In this day and age, this is talking about social and racial justice. What have you done to make a contribution to this world, to make it a better place? And by doing that and addressing that, that will get at your values that you have. So the committee, as far as community goes, really wants to know what is your sense of responsibility to your community, the larger community, to your school community, to your family community, to your local citywide committee, and more importantly then, to humanity. Okay, and again, if you don't have service yet, explain that. Why don't you have that service? Where is that time going to that you can't do that? So those three areas are very beneficial. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about organizing the essay for you. And again, this is a little bit different. I mean, it has a structure with introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion, but it really has more, for those of you who have learned, it has an implied thesis statement. No, an explicit thesis statement. It doesn't, I'm sorry, it has an implied thesis statement. You are implying the thesis. You're not explicitly stating it like we do in an academic essay. So in this introductory paragraph, you really want to grab the reader's attention. Again, develop your character, who you are. And these are sentences from my scholarship essay that I wrote. And it was so long ago, but I wanted to use something that I wrote while I was in college, just like you guys are, not something that I had revised as a writing professional. So I grabbed my reader's attention by saying, I am a first generation college student. Now that I've done that, I want to introduce myself further to the committee by providing basic background information about myself. I am a first generation college student. My parents met working in the fields and strive for the children to have a better life than physical labor. And then I'll start going on and a little bit talking perhaps about my some academic achievements. I might want to talk about my major, my degree that I want. I might want to talk a little bit about career goals here as well. So paragraph 1 is your introduction of introducing who you are to the committee. The second paragraph, you can talk about perhaps challenges and obstacles that you have overcome, or you can talk about any type of meaningful volunteer, leadership, internship, or work experience that you've had. Maybe you haven't had many challenges, or the challenges are too deep for you that you haven't been able to reflect upon them to make sense of them. So you can go into another area. And in this aspect, you want to share examples of obstacles that you have overcome or a challenge that you are currently facing. And you want to provide specific information. So I could talk about, an obstacle or a challenge that I overcame where I really learned a lot. And that is when I was in 5th grade, I wanted a bike. And when I asked my parents for that, they said, young man, go work for it. I said, I'm 10 years old. How am I going to get a job? They said, you can do what we did and go work in the fields. Well, you know what that did? That told me that I did not want to do that physical labor. I did not want to be a farm laborer for the rest of my life. Okay. But also, I've had some meaningful work experience that helped me develop me going into education. In addition to being enrolled as a full-time student, I also volunteered 10 hours a month and have an internship with the Sanger Unified School District, okay? And then that will enable me to talk about what I was able to learn from this experience of juggling, of being a full-time student, volunteering and still giving to my community while holding an internship to get my foot wet in the teaching field. Talk about how then this experience has affected or changed my life. We want you to be honest. We don't necessarily need these sob stories. And I think if you're honest, the genuineness of it will come through and people will feel what you had to go through. And again, as I said, if you prefer, if you have no challenges or obstacles to overcome, you can talk about internship and also significant work experience. The third essay is that you can talk about your career goals, okay? What is your goal in life? What is it you want to do? And I knew when I went into a teacher credential program and I was working at that Sanger Unified School District in high school, I said, this is not for me. Teaching was for me, but not the high school level. So that's when I decided, I said, my career goal is to be a college English professor. And the reason that I wanted to be a college English professor, Not only was it because of the level of maturity at the high school level, and I wanted to work a little bit more with older students that were perhaps a little bit more serious about their education, but I had been introduced to ethnic literature. While I was growing up, when I was in high school, I never read a Latino author, I never read an Asian author. I read Caucasian authors that were mostly dead, and I read a few African-American authors in the month of February, okay? I learned when I was exposed to ethnic literature, how it empowered me. And I knew that I could empower other students from underrepresented groups or from their cultures by teaching the literature, their voices, their identity, so they can see themselves in the curriculum. So when you talk about these career goals, again, include detailed information about what you want to do and why you want to do it. If you don't know yet, because we are young and young in our career, that's okay. Tell them, I'm debating between these two careers or these three careers. Let them know the reasons why you're undecided and why each area fulfills some type of need for you. If you did any volunteer internship work that have helped you to discover your interest in this career, that could also be a significant experience. Perhaps you interned at a law firm that made you want to go into being a lawyer. If you really don't want to deal with your career and talk about it, you can skip this paragraph and go on to a fourth paragraph where you talk about your educational goals. What is it that you want to achieve? I want to earn a bachelor's degree in English and then obtain a master's degree in English composition. That was my goal. I never knew if I wanted to get a PhD. Now, upon reflection, I have a master's of library science as well, and I really should have perhaps gotten some more work in ethnic studies because that's my area of interest. So again, include detailed information about what you want to do and why you want to do it. In this paragraph, include the schools that you are considering transferring to in the future. Even though you have not made your mind up, if you tagged a UC, tell us that you tagged this UC. We know that you're going there, already. If you tagged that UC, but you're also thinking about these other colleges, let us know that, okay? And again, if you did any type of experience to help discover your interest in the major, you can put it in here if you don't have the previous paragraph. Some students find that it is more convenient if they combine the career and the educational goals. You can do that into one paragraph as well. Finally, when you conclude your essay, as most conclusions do, we know if you think about the very basic and elementary way that we teach essay writing, at the very elementary level, we tell students, tell us what you're going to tell us, introduction, show it to us, body paragraphs, tell us what you told us, conclusion. So you want to summarize the main points of the essay, okay? And then after you do a quick summary, this is where you want to perhaps include why you feel you are an ideal candidate for a particular scholarship or any scholarship in general. As you are summarizing, don't forget those reminders to the committee to let them know why it is so important for you to go to college, why is it so important for you to receive this degree. How is that going to facilitate reaching your goals? That's what we said earlier, right? How is the educational process going to facilitate you reaching those goals? Why do you feel it's important for you to get a degree? Address that as well to conclude. And again, as I said, that sense of community, how are you going to show a sense of community? How are you going to give back? Okay. And you can put in there an explanation of why you need this money. How will this scholarship help you? Well, one way this scholarship will help is that you can devote more time to school. You don't have to work as much. Maybe this scholarship is going to help you because even though you can't do community service because of your family situation, this scholarship will enable you to have less hours so that you can do some sort of work or internship in the area of your interest. That's basically the essay. This here is just some pointers on the blunders that you want to avoid. So you want to avoid repeated information that is contained elsewhere in the application. So you know for the DVC application, you only have 500 words. So if that information tells us your club involvement someplace else, don't tell us that you're involved in clubs in the essay, because we know that, already. Also, you want to avoid the type of essay that complains about circumstances rather than explains. Remember that the scholarship committees want to know how resilient you are. While it is certainly okay to write about obstacles that you face, what is important to the committee is how you overcame the obstacle and not how terrible the obstacle was, and therefore feel sorry for me, okay? So you want to explain. You don't want the essay to be solely one that discusses money or college ranking as motivation. We know that all of us want to attend college to earn more money, to have a better lifestyle and income, and we all want to attend the most prestigious college as well. But committee members who read your essay want to know that you are motivated by the love of learning. So even though money or a school's ranking may be important to you, really keep this information out of your essay. Don't write an essay that relies on gimmicks rather than substance. So a gimmicky essay is one in which the reader tries to get the reader's attention through unconventional means. Usually it doesn't work that well. This does not mean that your essay has to follow one set format. What it means is that gimmicks cannot replace substance. So an example of this would be someone who has this quote that says, "College, oh college, how much I want thee for college. Oh college will strengthen me. And with the degree in hand, I will change this land and make a better life for me and for you." So somebody's saying, what is this supposed to be, a poem? They're being gimmicky and there's really no substance there. Also avoid the essay that makes claims that are not backed up in the application. Okay, so the essay, again, is a component of the application and is read within the context of the application. So a description of yourself as a top student in school should be supported by the grades on the transcript. So similarly, claims made about any extracurricular activities should also be backed up in the application. So for example, a student who claims that their lifelong ambition is to save the environment would want this claim supported by examples of involvement in environmental related hobbies, clubs, and even classes. And of course, it's not a writing test, but an essay needs to have minimal mechanical errors, cliches, or meaningful prose. And lastly, you want to avoid an essay that's too short or too long. Basically, what this shows is that you weren't able to follow directions. So an essay that is too short may indicate carelessness. One that is too long may signal arrogance. Remember, scholarship committee readers have many other applications to read. So be sure that the limited time available to peruse your information in your essay will be spent reading an essay that is of the appropriate length. So those are blunders to avoid. In the end, this is what a scholarship committee member is going to ask. No matter what you choose to write about, your essay needs to provide an answer to this basic question. What does the scholarship committee know about the applicant as an individual? Their character, their educational goals, and their sense of community. Those main characteristics that we talked about. If a committee member cannot answer this question enthusiastically, with confidence, and also with examples and experiences to support it, then it wasn't a very successful essay. And then unfortunately, you may not be a good match for a scholarship. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing screens. I know that that was quick and fast and dirty. We only had an hour. I hope that you find it is helpful to you. And again, my name is Professor Patrick Leong. You can reach me at pleong@dvc.edu. And also don't forget your main resource is Miss Sherry Keller, our scholarship program coordinator, and she's has virtual office right now because, like Noha said, she's not on campus either, but she has plenty of resources to be able to help you, and her job is to be here to help you. You have other English instructors that you have had that can help you as well. And just one last thing, if you have a professor that's on the scholarship committee, we are not allowed to write letters of recommendation for you for DVC scholarships. Since we select them, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest since we're the committee. So that includes myself, Professor Carolyn Seifer from business. That would be counselors Kimberly Galbraith and Alicia Breezy, a speech professor, Shannon Padilla, and I know I'm leaving somebody out, Sherry, Ellen, oh gosh, Bielu up in sciences. I think that's the main committee members. Thank you very much for joining us. And I know Noha wants to close up for you guys.
Thank you so much, Professor Patrick and Sherry. So you can adjourn if you would like to. I'm going over the extra credit again. So for those of you who signed in late, and I have like 6 students who signed in around 2:45, and one of them was 2:50. So if you can email me, that will be great, so we can chat a little bit more. But for the rest of the students who are here attending with us, you have a wonderful day. Some of the questions in the chat were about, will the recording be anywhere? Yes, this is recorded presentation for the workshop, and it's gonna be uploaded to the College Success website, maybe tomorrow or actually Monday. And we have a previous workshop for the the scholarship essay writing by Professor Patrick as well. That was already hosted on spring of 2020 before we went to all kind of virtual. So it is on the website as well. So it's kind of similar, it will give you an idea. But if you wanted this specific one for today, it will be uploaded on the website under College Success or Workshop Materials. So there is the calendar for the workshops and there is materials. Materials, you will see all the workshop that we presented last semester virtually. It's all recorded, it's there, and also from previous semester. So all of them are on the website. So for those of you, you can email me. My name is Noha Basilius. As you can tell, my name is on the screen. So it's nbasilius@dvc.edu for those of you who signed in late, if you wanted to talk about the extra credit. Extra credit is mainly for those who attended the entire workshop. We wanted to make sure that you benefit from the entire workshop. So if you have any other questions, this is still my email, nbasilius. You can email me anytime, and we are looking forward to seeing most of you for other workshops. We have a lot this semester, and it's all great topics, especially on how to succeed in online classes. So we would like to see most of you attending these. And for right now, you can enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for being with us today. Thank you, Professor Patrick.